Come see us on tour in Los Angeles, Honolulu, Dallas, Texas, Baltimore, Atlantic City, Cohoes, New York, and Providence, Rhode Island. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets, and only there. Let me jump right to our guest because I'm a little bit behind. Gerald Celente is a founder and director of the Trends Research Institute and publisher of the weekly Trends Journal magazine. He's the author of the best-selling books Trend Tracking and Trends 2000. He's also the founder of Occupy Peace and Freedom, a not-for-profit movement to honor the Constitution and Bill of Rights and restore our freedoms. Welcome to the show, Gerald Celente. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm so honored to be on with you. I admire so much of what you do. You're a real man that speaks out the truth of facts and in the true American spirit. So it's a true honor for me to be on with you.
Well, I'll take it. Thank you very much. That's a nice.
That's true.
That's a nice greeting. Well, Gerald, so tell me all about the Trends Research Institute and your weekly journal, Trends Journal magazine. Tell me all, what's that about? I'm going to guess it's about trends.
Yeah, well, it's, again, we go from everything from AI to high-tech science to geopolitics to economics to technocracy. We cover the world. We look at things for what they are, not the way we want them to be. I'm a political atheist. I don't believe in the crime syndicate. And what we do, for example, with the Israel wars going on, we subscribe to Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper. And again, we go to Jerusalem Post, the Times of Israel, but we go to IRNA, ISNA, Press TV, Tehran Times. We want to hear what the Iranians have to say. We go to Arab News, we go to Al Jazeera, we go to Middle East Monitor, we go to Middle East Eye. We want to hear what everybody has to say. And then we say, this is what they said, this is our analysis, and here's where we see it going. So there's no propaganda in it, because when you turn on to the American media, they're nothing more than little prostitutes, media whores that get paid to put out by their corporate pimps and government whoremasters. You talked about Occupy Peace. You have no damn right to talk about peace. Oh, Christmas season, peace on earth? Go to hell. We're not going to talk about that. Look at all the people they have on the mainstream media. Not one speaking about the facts of why we should have peace.
So, so basically what you do is you kind of, well, I'm still amazed. You know, I don't get invited to many Hollywood parties anymore. Ever since around 2016, when I declared I wouldn't vote for Hillary Clinton, even if she was running against Donald Trump. And it's really fell off there since I debunked Russiagate and the Syria gas attacks. I was behind Tulsi Gabbard. I was debunked the January 6th narrative, and then COVID. Whoever was left as my friend is over now. But anyway, I did get invited to a couple of parties, and it is just shocking to me that after the Vietnam War, after the Iraq War, the second Iraq War, the Libyan War, 20 years of lies about Afghanistan, people still believe what they hear on cable news and read in the New York Times. It is just astounding to me what people say at these parties. It's just, they're happy about Syria. They're worried about, I can't get over, they're still worried about Russia. I walked into a party, first thing the guy said to me is, "Hey, Jimmy, is Bobby Kennedy really going to take away the polio vaccine?" I'm like, oh, now I know what they're saying in the New York Times today. So are you just as astounded to me as it sounds like what you're doing is kind of like an antidote to the corporate prostitutes, as you call them?
Just a little background. I began my career, I didn't want to go to work. And after graduate school, and I just went to college to beat the draft in the Vietnam War. And I started working on political campaigns in Westchester County, and worked for this guy, Angelo Martinelli, became the longest running mayor of Yonkers. And they were grooming me. And I was the assistant to the secretary of the New York State Senate. And I quit. It was watching grown men grovel to suck their way up to the top wasn't my trip. And then I was the government affairs specialist for the chemical industry. I was killing environmental legislation at the height of the environmental movement in the 1970s. staying at the Willard Hotel at 28 years old, putting my meetings on to Hay Adams. And then around 32 years old, I started to grow up. I saw what a crime syndicate it all was. And this book, it was trend tracking, far better than Megatrends Time Magazine, 1989. I write about how I became a trend forecaster. And it was when little Jimmy Carter, the guy, that little slime ball that allowed interstate banking, did away with the regulations to allow the big airline companies to only own 4 and own everything anyway. He comes back from Iran, and you were talking about Russiagate, how they taught us to hate Russia all our lives. When I was a kid, they had us hiding under a desk in case an atom bomb went off. He comes back from Iran, and this is how he became a trend forecaster. And he said he spent New Year's Eve, he and Rosalind, with the Shah. And he said the Shah is the island of stability in the Middle East. In the Bronx, we used to say bullshit has its own sound. As this thing's going down, there are millions of people taken to the streets. People had no idea the United States overthrow of the democratically elected government of Mossadegh in 1953 in Iran. And the only newspaper that reported the final facts in 2017 was the Financial Times. Had that slimeball, Winston Churchill, and Kermit Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt's grandson, great-grandson, the CIA and the MI6 overthrew Mossadegh because he had the nerve, this Iranian guy, to say, no, that oil doesn't belong to Anglo-Iranian oil. It doesn't belong to Standard Oil, better known as today as ExxonMobil now, Standard Oil then, and at BP now. It was ExxonMobil back then. They got rid of him. They put in the Shah, the Savak, the secret police that made the SS look good. So when this thing started to happen, that's when I became a political atheist. I said, this is a crime syndicate. And I said, I bet that gold and oil prices will go up. And I played the futures markets, a $5,000 bet in each one. And I brought it to almost $750,000. I lost a lot of the dough. I whacked out in a lot of stuff doing crazy. But that's how I started looking at things, not what they're selling, but the facts. And you talked about what people are saying now and how they could speak about this stupid stuff. My father, may he rest in peace, when I started to learn stuff, he said, son, take it easy. People have little minds. and if you need to see how little their minds were, 90% of the American people swallow the crap coming out of the mouth of little Georgie Bush, a little daddy's boy of nothing. We're going to get that guy Osama bin Laden dead or alive. 90% of the people. And as you mentioned, the Afghan war, longest war in American history, only cost us several $1 trillion, killed a couple of 100,000 people, and lost another couple of $100 billion as we got out of there.
So you predict trends. So you debunk corporate media, but you predict trends. Tell me what that means.
Well, we don't predict because there are too many wild cards, whether they're made by humans or by nature. So what we do is we look at the facts to see where we're going. So anyway, I used to be on Oprah, the Today Show, Good Morning. I used to be on everybody. And they, by the way, they got me off when I came out against the Afghan war and said we weren't going to win because if Alexander the Great couldn't pull it off, and if the British at the height of the British Empire couldn't pull it off, into the Valley of Death, Road to 600, and if the Russians couldn't beat them and they're right next door, what makes you think we're going to beat them when we haven't won a war since World War II? We haven't won that one without Russia. So going back, I don't predict, but I look at things. So for example, I came out with the bottled water trend. I came out with the term clean foods back in 1993. The New York Times did a story.
So how did you come up with the trend for bottled water?
Because I started looking at all it was coming out with, and there was a lot of information coming out back then. Again, this is the beginning of the environmental movement that happened in the mid to late 70s. And they were talking about all the poisons in water. So I knew people were going to go into a different direction. And then again, we also come out with why people are going to become more obese when women stop raising their children and put them in nursing homes for kids that they call daycare centers. and the mothers aren't cooking for him anymore. So we said we're going to see more obesity, more ultra-processed foods, and more sickness in different ways. So we look at the facts of what's going on. And then people don't like that sometimes when you give them, well, yeah, how dare you say that? Which same would happen. You look at my generation, look at the pictures of Woodstock generation, 1969. We weren't suffering of blimpitis back then. We got 42% of the Americans are obese, 70% are overweight, and they eat crap all day. So then we look at what the implications are going to be.
So what are some of the big trends right now? What are some of the things that what are some of the facts you're noticing that leads you to predict a trend right now it's a great time of year to have you on because the New Year's just around the corner. So what do you predict for 2025, some of the trends?
I got to tell you, this is a wild card year with Trump in there, because if he does what he says, certain things are going to happen. If he doesn't do, other things are going to happen. But here's the bottom line. And the bottom line is Trump's a bottom line cat. Doe is his major concern. We believe he's going to do everything he can to keep interest rates lower than they are. You look at Treasury yields, they keep going back up. He's going to do everything he can to lower interest rates. So then we look at it, okay, the lower the interest rates go, the lower the dollar goes. The lower the dollar goes, the higher gold prices are going to go. Gold prices stagnated when Trump got into office. They were up almost $700 an ounce since the beginning of the year. And by the way, one of our top trends for 2024 was a golden year for gold. And now gold's up about $600 since then. And then we think it's very positive for Bitcoin. Again, you look at the people he's bringing in, and it's a Bitcoin club. And then you look at all the billionaires he's brought into the gang. So we think it's going to be very positive for the equity markets. And again, we go by the facts. Let's go back to 2018, December. It was the worst December for the Dow since 1931, the Great Depression. What did Trump do? He forced Jerome Powell, the Fed head, to lower interest rates. And he did in January. Oh, what happened? Oh, the repo crisis? Oh, we'll forget about that. They're going to do everything they can to artificially prop up this economy. And then the wild cards are what's going on in the Middle East war. And again, I got to write about this every day. And I'll never forget when you had RFK Jr. on, when he was first running for president, and he was very, very popular. His popularity rating, which was very early back then, was hitting between like 15 to 20%. And by the way, I had Dennis Kucinich, his campaign manager at the time, as one of the speakers at my Occupy Peace rally that I hold every year. And I remember you questioning, now tell me if I'm wrong, but this is the way I remember it. He was very pro-Israel, what they were doing, and you were not.
Yeah, that's correct.
And you said, I'd like to have you on with
Max Blumenthal.
That's right. And he wouldn't do it. So now I'm going back to the wild card. The genocide being committed in Israel is atrocious. I'm going back to the facts. I got all the papers here we could go over every day. You go back from last Friday to today, not one article in the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times about the daily slaughter of the Palestinians by the Israelis. Today, the New York Times had a decent article about it, but not for several days. They're in Syria. They're stealing more land. You mean
Israel?
I'm sorry. Israel's in Syria stealing more land.
Yes.
And now they've reneged on the ceasefire in Lebanon, and it still bombs away over there and stealing more land. And now the talk's coming out that this is when I say that what we do is we go to the here. This is Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper today. Reports Israel raids, evacuates one northern Gaza's last hospital. Oh, that was the 27th today. Israel forces raided the Kamal Adwan Hospital, one of only 3 medical facilities on the northern edge of the Gaza Strip on Friday, ordering dozens of patients and hundreds of others to evacuate the compound. And they've killed at least 25 people on Friday. And the daily strikes come a day after reports of Israel forces killing 50 Gazans on Thursday. The hell with that. 5 people got killed in Germany. You forgot? Oh, that was front page news. Some guy killed 5 people in Germany. Every day this is going on. Every day they're going to keep escalating this. That's the wildest wild card, because going back to when I became a trend forecaster about oil prices, if they attack Iran, you're going to see Brent crude, by the way, is only at about $73.60 a barrel. Very low because there's a global slowdown, supply and demand. They go to war against Iran, you're going to see oil prices, Brent crude, go to about $120, $130 a barrel. That will crash the equity markets. It will crash the already crashing global economy. And it'll spike gold prices and Bitcoin prices. So that's the way we look at things.
So do you have a prediction of do you think they will go to war with Iran? I think they will.
Absolutely. I do these things, that I don't want to hear the fairy tale that was that guy, Huckleberry, the little jerk that they brought in for the United Nations ambassador to Israel.
Mike Huckabee.
Trump brought in. Yeah. God gave Israel this land 3,500 years ago. God told Abraham, hey, Godson, what if I don't believe in your God? And what did God disappear? Hasn't come back in 3,500 years ago? And he only talked to one person? Well, I got to believe this crap? What, are you kidding me or what? They're stealing the land in front of everybody's eyes in violation of the Geneva Convention and Article 242 of the United Nations. And now they're going into Syria and stealing more land. So going back to the Trump administration, considering the Zionist group that he brought in, and why did he get over $100 million from Adelson's wife and $100 million from Adelson before that, and moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and said to Israel, hey, that land you stole in the Golan Heights, it's yours. So I think it's going to continue to escalate, because there's also working out that Trump is also opposed to Iran. And of course, by their deeds you shall know them. He's the guy that ended the nuclear agreement with Iran and killed Soleimani back in 2020?
Right. So we could say that your prediction for the trend would be oil prices go up, gold prices go up, the equity market crashes, and their war continues to escalate at the behest of Israel, because that's what people don't realize, that Syria, they have their hand in all this. They had their hand in Iraq, they had their hand in Libya, they had their hand in Syria, and they're going to right now. There's an instability in Egypt. The Greater Israel Project also includes parts of Egypt, so I wouldn't be surprised if that was that. So I think Trump will do whatever Israel wants, and if Israel wants him to attack Iran, I think he will. So that's the trend. That's what you're saying the trend is?
Yeah,
okay.
I agree. Here, this is again from Haaretz today.
Yeah.
Houthi military sites in Sana'a struck an attack by U.S. and U.K.
Yeah.
Put an F and a C in that U.K. too.
Yep.
What are you doing over there? What right do you have going over there? Oh, I forgot. That the Yemen war was brought to you by the Nobel Peace of Crap Prize winner, Barack Obama.
That's right.
Yeah, and that little Blinken boy.
Yep.
Again, like George Carlin said, it's one big club and you ain't in it. Oh, my daddy was the ambassador to Hungary. My uncle was the ambassador to Belgium. I went to Dalton. I went to Harvard. And I went over there to Saudi Arabia to give, quote, intelligence as the undersecretary of state under Obama, as the United States are refueling the Saudi planes to bomb the hell out of Yemen. And we won't talk about that.
And yeah, and again, this is all being done, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, under the AUMF, which is the Authorization for the Use of Military Force, which means we're supposed to be fighting terrorists, but it turns out we're in bed with the terrorists. Al Qaeda, we're funding Al Qaeda, ISIS. Al Qaeda just took over Syria, and they're our buddies now. And but so we don't have to declare war. The president never has to declare war. Congress never gets to vote on it. We just have a handful of unelected billionaires directing our foreign policy. And right now, they're bombing Yemen again and the Houthis, and that they're doing that at the behest of who? Saudi Arabia and Israel. So, and people don't know this. And people don't care. But Trends Journal knows about this. Listen, it's been great to talk to you, Gerald. I got a packed show. I have to get to the rest of the show, but I really appreciate you coming on. You have any parting words for the audience?
Yeah, do everything you can to help anybody you can, and we're in very, very dangerous times. So my just suggestion is get in the best shape you can, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. One of the top trends we're going to have this year is Off With Their Heads 2.0. The people are tired of the billionaires running the whole show, and we become nothing more than plantation workers of Slavelandia. So be the man or woman that you really want to be, because it's your country, not theirs. Because if you don't have a billionaire, you can't talk to the president. But if you're a billionaire, you can talk to anybody that you want. So we have to stand up as human beings in the true spirit of the American spirit. And you're that man that does that. And I'm so happy to be on with you, and so thankful for all that you do.
I appreciate it. Now it's time for MAGA to stand up to Elon and Vivek and Donald Trump and impose their will, because the billionaire class does not have MAGA interests at heart. We all know that. But anyway, we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed. Look, like I say for the future, you predict the trends. I say I have hope, but I don't have any faith. So we'll see what happens. Gerald Celente, everybody check out the Trends Journal magazine. Appreciate you coming on, pal. We'll talk to you again soon.
I'd love to. Thank you.
Come see us on tour in Los Angeles, Honolulu, Dallas, Texas, Baltimore, Atlantic City, Cohoes, New York, and Providence, Rhode Island. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets, and only there.